I'm Sharpie Shark. I like movies, and here's what I watched in January. The very first movie that I watched in 2025 was Nosferatu, and Robert Eggers. In you I trust. Honestly, he just took everything that I love in gothic horror and he just cranked it up to 11 and so fucking good. This film is stunning. Every frame looks like a painting that also happens to be nightmare fuel. The cinematography was absolutely beautiful. It had those muted colors. It had this eerie, kind of dreamlike atmosphere. Now the performances, oh my God. I've seen that some people have been critiquing the performances as being too overdramatic, and to that I ask, do you know anything about gothic horror? Lily Rose Depp absolutely kills it as Ellen. Bill Skarsgård as the Count. I mean, what? I mean, there's a Skarsgård under there. How can you go wrong with a Skarsgård? How can you go wrong with a Skarsgård? And speaking of the Count, okay, so I realize that he is a monstrous, centuries-old plague of the night, but hear me out. I realize that this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but for me, it is a masterclass in filmmaking, in cinematography, in sound design. The sound design is absolutely bonkers for this. I do feel like they were robbed in the Oscars department for that. 5 stars from me. 5 stars. Easy peasy. I realized that I started 2025 off really strong with a good old bang, but 5 stars.
We're a strange pair, aren't we? Are you trying to save my soul?
Next up, I watched The Fall from 2006 by director Taram Singh, I believe. And yeah, I realized that I am shredding any credibility that I have not yet built up by giving this another 5 stars, because this was an insane film that I can't believe it exists and that I didn't know about it and that it exists. I feel like I discovered some sort of lost cinematic treasure, which is not true. It's a bit of a cult classic. I'm just late to the train. The story is super, super simple. There's a man in a hospital and he's telling a little girl a story.
I'll tell you a story.
And within the simplicity of that plot allows so much room for these insane visuals, bonkers acting, because it's so incredibly naturalistic between the main characters Lee Pace and Katinka Ntaru, I believe, this little girl. More on that later. Yeah, the overall plot, very, very simple. But then as Lee Pace's character is telling this little girl this story, it's acted out and it's shown, and it's absolutely insane. They shot in, I can't tell if it's 24 or if it's 27 countries. I found numbers all in between that spread, but I'm gonna go with 27 because that just sounds cooler. But they literally went to 27 different countries to have these shots, and you can tell that they put the work into it. And they did that because the director thought that the modern technology wouldn't hold up after a while, and let's be honest, if he tried to use 2006 CGI, he would be very much right. So that man is a visionary. Honestly, every single shot looks like something that you would hang in a museum. Back to the acting though. Whenever we were watching, I kept piping up and saying, I don't think this little girl thinks that she's in a movie. I don't think she realizes that she's acting right now. And it turns out that's not wrong. The director wanted the most natural acting experience from Katinka that he could get. And so Lee Pace actually acted disabled for almost the entirety of the shoot, and everybody around him called him Roy, his character's name. That's how little Katinka knew him, was as Roy, and she thought that he literally couldn't use his legs, which is an interesting decision, especially considering she did see him at some point in filming walking around, and it kind of messed with her brain because of course it would. She's like 4. How old was she? She was 6, but I cannot deny that the method certainly worked because the acting between Lee Pace and Katinka is so naturalistic, and it's because, as the director said, he wanted Katinka to talk, not act. So they're just having legitimate conversations, including some that went off the rails in certain ways and actually affected the story. Like there's a point where Katinka's character is trying to read something that Lee Pace's character has written down, and she mistakes an E for a 3, and then that changes some of the storyline later, which is awesome. It's so creative. I love that. The hospital felt super, super natural and realistic. I feel like I just keep saying that for this entire review, but hey. Which is kind of insane that I'm saying The Fall is naturalistic and realistic. But the hospital that they were shooting in was still working actively as a hospital, so I might just be partial to this movie because every time it switched over to Lee Pace's story, like his narration, it honestly just felt like a D&D session. It just felt like a band of hooligans, sometimes rolling low, and then shenanigans happen. I don't know how to further describe that, but if you watch it, I feel like you know what I'll mean. Anyway, I think this film is a miracle. I love it. 5 stars. Now, we will see if I will be more critical as the month goes on. Well, the month went on, and guess what? The next movie I watched was Hundreds of Beavers, and it certainly had hundreds of beavers. Yep, it has received a ton of awards, which is awesome. I have never been this close to turning off a movie. I totally get why it won a ton of awards. It's super creative, it's got a clear vision, and for anybody who loves slapstick comedy, this is probably like peak cinema. But I am not a slapstick kind of girl. This movie wears its influences on its sleeve, so think Abbott and Costello, Three Stooges, all classics and absolute masters of their craft. But the whole physical, extremely exaggerated humor is just not my thing. It just doesn't strike me in the giggle dick. And Hundreds of Beavers is entirely that. It's quick setups with quick punchlines, over and over and over again. And I just got bored. It just felt like there wasn't a lot of payoff, or that the payoff happened immediately. I don't know. I wasn't a Looney Tunes girl. The actual craft of this film is super, super impressive. It was written and directed by Mike Cheslick, and then Ryland, hold on, I think this guy's got like 4 names. Ryland Brixton Cole Tews. Tews also starred in it, and his acting was great. Again, like the actual craft of this film was phenomenal. It just wasn't my thing. So yeah, I give it a 1.5 stars for the craft, and also for the sled dogs that are wearing BDSM harnesses. I loved that. That got a giggle out of me. All right, next up is Don't Move, which came out in 2024 and was directed by Adam Schindler and Brian Netto. And it is a movie that is so aggressively average that I don't feel like I have a lot to say on it. But I do! The concept is fine. Our main character essentially spends most of the film trying to fight off a paralytic agent that has been injected to her, and she is running away from a murderer. Sounds fine. Cool. Whatever. And that's the thing. It is just kind of whatever. It's not tense enough. I don't know. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just kind of there. The acting performances were fine. It did feel like one long Apple Watch ad, though. It's everywhere. She was using it to try to call for help. She was using it to set a timer. The timer was constantly being shown, and then the timer went off, but she couldn't touch it because she was paralyzed. It's like the movie really wanted us to know how useful a smartwatch is in a crisis. I actually half expected a post-credit scene with Tim Cook personally thanking us for watching. The performances are decent, some of the shots are nice, but the whole thing just kind of gives like standard Netflix movie vibe. You could just put it on in the background while you're cooking and then pop in every once in a while and absolutely know what's happening because it's not hard to follow. Can we also talk about the fact that if you were injected with a paralytic agent and you were fully paralyzed, you would pee yourself? The movies never show that. Anyway, 2.5 stars because it was a film.
I have to get out of here.
Out of bounds.
All right, so Greener Grass, which came out in 2019, is just kind of a film that defies explanation, which sounds so hoity-toity of me, but I mostly just mean that I don't know how to explain this film. I love it so much. It's honestly one of my like top 20 films, I would say. It's extremely creative and absolutely bonkers. It's super surreal. It kind of feels like if David Lynch was to direct Desperate Housewives. I don't know how else to describe this. It wasn't directed by David Lynch. It was directed by, what are their names? Oh no, I'm gonna butcher these. Jocelyn DeBoer and Don Leb. It's written, directed, and starred in by both of these phenomenal women. It's one of those films that it's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea at all. It's super, super surreal. I sat down, this was a rewatch for me. I was showing it to a friend and she kept asking me questions that I had no answers for. And I love that about it. The comedic vision in this film is so specific. They just completely commit to this pastel colored nightmare where everything is polite to an unnerving degree. I realize I'm not explaining what happens in the film at all, and that's because I don't know how to. You just kind of have to watch it. To give you a few ideas though, here are some little things. There's a running gag about a person who's obsessed with drinking pool water. Not everyone in the film stays human. No, I don't know why the milk is that color. And my personal favorite, hi Mom, I'm full of classrooms, so many clocks in me. Not everybody's gonna like this film, but I do want everybody to watch it. 4 stars.
You find yourself struggling to procure payment funds. Here are a few useful ideas.
Please get out. Please.
One of Them Days by Lawrence Lamont is a film that completely and totally snuck up on me. I had absolutely zero expectations. I just had a night where I really wanted a distraction, so I called up a friend and asked if we could go see a movie, and this was the movie that was playing at the most convenient time, and I'm so glad it was. This was so fucking good. I don't know why I hadn't heard about it before. So for starters, it stars Keke Palmer and SZA.
I'm Keke Palmer.
And I'm SZA.
Which is amazing, and their chemistry is insane. It's so good. It feels so natural and fun, and they're just riffing off of each other, and it feels, I don't know, heartwarming. It's cute. I'm not usually one for like a standard comedy. I need like a really ridiculous comedy like Greener Grass, something that's surreal, something that's Lynchian. But this is just like a solid, good, cute comedy film. I don't know. I already knew that Keke was a powerhouse actress, but I didn't know what to expect from SZA, but she just gets it. I don't know, they're back and forth. It's just so good. The writing is sharp, it's funny, it's genuinely charming. It makes you actually care about the characters and everything that's going on about them instead of just expecting you to, which a lot of films do. But this one, thankfully, does not. 3.5 stars. Fun, charming, I liked it. It was right about this time during January that the Oscar nominations came out. And we like to watch all of the Best Picture nominees, which meant we watched this.
Mingle.
This film has been the center of many controversies, rightfully so. It is offensive to absolutely every community that it tries to encompass. And honestly, beyond all of that, it commits the ultimate movie sin of just being really fucking boring. I had to watch this in 2 tries because I fell asleep halfway through. There's been a lot said already about this film, and I feel like it's been said best by those who are in the communities that were so grossly misrepresented. If you haven't already, I really recommend this video by Jessie Gender. They just go in hard on all of the details and all of the nitty-gritty about just how abysmal of a film this is. Anyway, 1/2 star because they actually hired a trans actress. Might have been higher if they hired any Mexican actresses, but
Therefore, no need for faith.
continuing down the list of Best Picture nominees for the Oscars was Conclave. And honestly, I like this a lot more than I expected to. My knowledge of how the Catholic Church picks out a new pope is pretty much entirely based on Dan Brown novels, which it turns out was pretty good, right? I was like, I know why they have different colors of smoke going up. I felt like that was pretty good for someone that has no knowledge whatsoever. I did kind of feel like Tom Hanks was gonna show up at any time, maybe just like hitting a vape in the back. But thankfully, Conclave was much better than Angels and Demons. The cinematography was gorgeous. There were some shots that honestly just kind of looked like they were out of a Renaissance painting. Others that didn't, but they were still pretty. They definitely looked modern because it was in a modern era. The performances were super subtle, but I thought they were stellar. Ralph Fiennes takes the lead as Cardinal Lawrence, and I just thought that he had this like quiet intensity that was just so good. Stanley Tucci did a great job. John Lithgow, who always plays a great villain. Lucian Masamati was in this, and he did a great job. And I mean, honestly, how was I not gonna like this movie? The whole thing is about gossip. It's about piping hot tea. It's like Real Housewives, but with cardinals and robes instead of stilettos. It does throw out some super interesting takes on the Catholic Church, which I'm sure the Vatican is none too happy about, which I do love. Pissing off the Vatican. It's a solid 3.5 stars. I feel like there could have been more, but I don't know exactly what there could have been. Acting was good, cinematography was good. It was a good movie. 3.5 stars. And that's a wrap on my January movie haul. Some surprises, some disappointments, and at least one that made me question my taste in now.
I want to play a game.
I picked out some of my favorite obscure Letterboxd reviews, and your job is to figure out which movie they're about. I will reveal the answers in the next video. Until then, go watch something, preferably something unhinged. Bye.